Welcome to the session on Credit Markets Amid Disruption. For Part 1, please welcome to the stage founder, managing partner, and chief investment officer of GoldenTree Asset Management, Stephen Tananbaum, in conversation with CEO of the IDW Group, Ilana Weinstein.
Hello, everybody. I have had the pleasure of working with this guy for the last decade, over a decade.
Over a decade.
IDW's mandate is to help founders build forward-leaning, durable, world-class firms. And by that, I mean human capital. We are all about attracting the best people. People who, Steve, you like to say are special.
Yes.
And in that capacity, I have gotten to know you as investor, business builder, and friend, and I am now also a client. It is through the lens of building something differentiated, because we need something special for these special people to want to go to, that I'm excited to discuss the evolution and growth of GoldenTree. Okay, so let's dive in. We're both New Yorkers, born and bred.
Yes.
Which is a rare thing.
Yep. So we, different New York during today versus the 70s and 80s.
Don't date me, Steve.
And my dad still lives in the apartment I was born in. And I think we have something in common. We both shared a room with our sibling.
That's true. And my brother and I used to throw stuffed animals over the bookcase that was the partition. Did you and Jim do anything like that?
It was a little more solid than stuffed animals.
Ooh.
It's Jim's birthday today. Happy birthday, Jim.
Happy birthday, and I hope you don't have the battle scars from early childhood.
No, it's all good.
Okay, so we're both gritty New Yorkers. You spent the first 10 years at Mackay Shields.
Yep.
And put up an incredible top decile track record. Why did you choose to leave?
So I saw that the demand for long-only credit and alternative credit was exploding. And there weren't enough managers who were good at it. I mean, I kept going against the same handful of firms. And just from a business case, I saw there's going to be a need for more credit managers. And so with that, I went about forming GoldenTree.
So you're at the top of your game. You realize there's a dearth of talent for what you do, and you're prescient enough to see the coming growth of the industry. I started IDW around the same time, a few years after you started GoldenTree. So I'm very familiar with what the landscape looked like back then. And just to give you guys a sense of context for this growth, back then there was $500 billion of AUM managed by hedge funds. Today, there's almost $5 trillion. There were 3,000 hedge funds, and today, at least according to the Financial Times in 2023, there were then 30,000 hedge funds.
Probably more today.
Probably more today. And back then they said, I love this headline, more hedge funds than Burger Kings. So I would venture to say today it's a hell of a lot easier to find a hedge fund than a Burger King, particularly if you're in New York. Before we dive in, I'd love to hear you describe for the audience what makes GoldenTree special and describe the firm.
Sure. So first I'll start with who we are. We're a $60 billion firm. We specialize in corporate credit, long, public and private turnarounds and distressed investing, structured products, emerging markets, and real estate. We now that's what we do. What makes us special First is our partnership structure. One of the things that's unique, and when we started out, I wouldn't have thought 25 years later it would be so unusual, but we're 100% employee owned by the partners, and we also all share in the same bottom line. And that fosters collegiality, because we're all rooting for each other, because one is it's the type of people we attract, but also because we all win together. There's a culture of meritocracy. So half of our partners are promoted from within. And then finally, our track record. We have about 10 different products, and every product we've been top quartile or decile.
So just to give you guys another stat, along with those industry stats, of those 30,000 plus hedge funds, roughly 10% control 90% of the AUM. There is incredible market concentration. And the average lifespan of a hedge fund is 3 years. Not a lot survive. So to have achieved that kind of scale and durability over these 25 years is truly remarkable, particularly seen through that context. My headline, Steve, is GoldenTree is a study in contradictions. You have achieved tremendous growth, but you're not an asset gatherer. You do three things really well, and I think most founders don't even do one well. You mentioned your returns. It's worth pointing out that the difficulty comes not in putting up great returns at various points, but being able to do that consistently over a 25-year period through different markets, different cycles, through volatility, and consistently generating alpha. You're a great business builder. Not exactly what our industry is known for. It's not the ethos of the industry. People are attracted to it because they think they're great investors, not necessarily because of their business building acumen. That comes later sometimes, sometimes not. You also have a great culture of retention and development. You mentioned your 50% of your partners are promoted from within. I would add to that that the average tenure of your partner is 15 years. And the final thing, which is a contradiction, is foot on the pedal, intensity, nonstop for 25 years, and people do stay. So it's not a hang around the hoop coast type of culture where you tend to get a lot of like decades long tenure, but one which has the degree of intensity where we tend to see higher turnover. So that being said, let's dive in. Can you take us through your approach to growth? Assets have doubled in the last couple of years,
Yep.
And since we've started working together, they've tripled.
Yep. So we had a basic premise, which was if you increase our playbook and deepen our playbook, we're going to have more opportunities than we have assets. And as a result, the returns are going to look very consistent. And that's what we've done. We've taken accents like real estate, structured products in emerging markets, and developed separate groups for those. And then areas like whether it's media or telecom or private credit investing, which we've always done, and broadened it. And made it deeper and have more resources at that. Such that if you were to look at our 25 years and take any 3-year period, it would look and change the years, there wouldn't be that much of a difference. Sure, some years are better or worse, but it's been pretty consistent. Mm-hmm. So that's one aspect. Another aspect is compensation. We want people to be recognized if they do well and know it tangibly and expect that they're going to get recognized. We're serious about, for our performers, getting paid in the top quartile, if not the top decile. And also the way that we communicate to our partners about profitability is very demonstrative. to be more granular, when you look at private equity, we have several private equity type of products with a promote. And the way that we represent promote is promote earned. And we don't have theoretical promote, which is you already assume as soon as the fund is closed that there's a certain return, and you're going to get, and the return is whatever, it's 15% net, and then you get the promote based on the return, and you have a certain percentage of the promote. We only talk about promote earned.
Money in the ground.
Money in the ground, exactly. And in fact, I think competitively, that's going to be an issue, particularly for some of the private firms, which are more theoretical promote opposed to actually earned promote.
I'm laughing because how many deals have we worked on together where people start with what I call aspirational income?
Yes.
Right.
Actually, I think you use the word funny money.
Funny money. Thank you. I like to use that.
Yep.
Credit is the blood that runs through GoldenTree's veins. And I have to tell you, funds are not necessarily that disciplined about sticking to what makes them special. And so being really true to who you are, not growing for growth's sake, and always sticking to what you do well.
Yes.
Can you talk about some of those businesses in a bit more detail? Because you were first among your peers to develop them.
So we've always thought of how are we going to win? What's going to put us in the best position to win? So you look, for instance, in 2005, we thought that we could get better access by having a dedicated capital markets group. So we set up a capital markets group to call desk of the large banks and of the large sponsor firms, private equity firms. We also thought with distressed that we saw that when we had control positions, we saw that having an M&A expertise would be able to enable us to make platform acquisitions, but also disposals and potentially whole company sales. So we ended up forming an M&A group, and that group has been extremely accretive, not only on the positions we have control positions in, but also throughout our portfolio. And then something like the having a head of equities. You wouldn't think a credit shop would have a head of equities.
We had something to do with that.
Absolutely. Thank you. It's worked out very nicely. And what before we had the head of equities, our returns versus the Russell and S&P on our equity portfolio was always strong, was better. But I felt that there was information that we were missing. And there are certainly issues that are important to the equity investor that's not necessarily as important to the credit investor, and we were missing having access and focusing on that.
And to be clear, when we say equities, we mean credit-linked equities.
Absolutely.
It's the way one informs the other, which you touched upon. And I think ultimately, Steve, this leads to a more durable return, right?
Yep.
It's what gives you competitive advantage in having insights you wouldn't otherwise have.
First is you're always trying to curate your information because you could have so much information. So what's the most useful information, and why do different areas react differently? And you even see it with what's happened with tariffs. Mm-hmm. There was a lot of negativity. Now there's a lot of optimism. And you're just trying to understand what's going on. So getting what we think are the best insights is important in making a decision.
Well, in terms of making decisions, I have a lot of insight into pretty much every fund out there.
Yep.
I invest in very few. And I voted with my feet to invest because I have so much conviction about GoldenTree in a way which is very unique given the seat that I sit in and the information that we have. And I was very excited to see last year, I was at your awards dinner. You were recognized, I think this is multiple times. You got Credit-Focused Hedge Fund Manager of the Year and Event-Driven Manager of the Year. These are the II Awards, kind of like the Academy Awards for hedge funds.
Yes.
It was multiple times, right?
Yes, yeah. It's been a few times,
Awesome.
fortunately. Hopefully we'll have a few more times.
I have a feeling you will. Well, as long as I'm in the fund, you better.
And she means it, by the way.
Okay, let's talk about the knife fight for talent.
Yep.
Something that we
That you
know
know
well.
about.
Yep. And you and I have lived through together for a decade now. What do you look for when you're hiring?
Sure. First is a prior history of success. And that there's evidence that the person we're evaluating has been differentiated. So that's at the macro level. At the more personal level, first, critical thinker. We like people who love what they do in any role. And it's something that they're thinking about after they leave the office, and they care about it. We also want people who are self-reflective and are always wanting to continue learning. The one question I ask during every interview is, tell me what didn't go well. And then how did you respond? I want to understand if their approach is to try and learn from what didn't go well or to try and minimize it, or not even, or nothing comes to mind. And we're looking for people who are always trying to learn, improve, and it's competitive. And with so many different resources out there, and it's so competitive, you want people who are reflective and focused enough to continue to try and learn and get better. Yeah.
They've really thought about what has gone wrong. What are the business drivers they missed? What are the unintended bets that they didn't make? And how they then approached it to make their process and learning more robust so that that didn't happen again.
I've always learned so much more from what didn't go well than what did go well.
Exactly. And this isn't just something that is for people that are still in the arc of their career, right? We're always in the arc of our career. We're always evolving. That's a thread here with GoldenTree and with any successful founder. But you and I don't always agree on everything, right? Not always.
Which is great. It's
is
healthy.
Great. And you are flexible. That's my point. You may have strong opinions, but you are flexible. I learned so much from working with you. Thank you. And I think that culture of learning is set from the top. And you attract people. I'm going to kind of digress. I'm going to move into why I think people join. It's this culture of learning to be made better. It's the fact that the firm is actually really lean. 60 billion of AUM, 320 employees, but only 100 investment professionals. And that means that every seat matters, and people get to stretch and be accountable and really create something.
And people know at all levels that they're going to be recognized. We had an analyst who sourced a private credit deal. And it's not his role. He covered an industry and said, I think this company needs $1 billion. And we ended up pitching the company. We ended up doing the deal. And it was a great deal. And we let him know throughout the firm, he was the one who found it. At the end of the year, he was recognized, and we knew that we wanted him to feel good about how he was compensated in addition for making that extra, for bringing this opportunity. And we told him, you do this again, you're going to get twice as much, if not more, if you find another deal. So rewarding people who want to go extra is important.
Let me clarify something. You told him that.
Yes.
It's not that usual for a founder to be that involved and that micro and to have that much visibility and input and care to each one of his employees. And this is the way you roll. It doesn't matter how big the firm gets.
But I'd say, I have a great team, and I would say that there was a lot of love shared with this analyst on this transaction. A lot of love.
Okay, so speaking of winning teams.
Yes.
Okay, I think we're being told to wrap up.
Okay.
You are intense. You don't need me to tell you that. You love to win. We all do. And you are as committed to the game as anyone I've ever worked with, and you know who we work with.
Yes, and I think you work with a lot of people who are committed to the game.
Yes.
Yes.
You're in that, but in that like very rarefied, focused, committed, passionate, palpably passionate about what you do. What keeps you going?
Well, first is I love what I do. I love the team we have. I love being on a winning team. I think it's contagious. We talk about this concept of winning a Super Bowl each year. Now, what does that mean? It means that we want to have a special year. We know that each year we start with no wins or losses, and we have to make the wins and losses. And we know that there's no better feeling than when we do it together. We've talked about the partnership structure we all share in the same pot. We also appreciate, if you're a sports team, it's unusual to have a franchise that's done well for a decade. We're on our 25th year, and we're very proud of how well we've done over that 25 years. So we've been winning for a while, and it's fun to be part of a winning team.
Well, it's fun for me to be part of this winning team as well and help you with a number of your key draft picks. Is that the right term?
Yes, absolutely.
Terminology. And I believe, Steve, truly, you're just getting going, and the next 25 years will be even better.
Thank you.
Yep.